in the endless black between the stars, where the sun's warmth fades to nothing and silence has reigned for billions of years, two of humanity's oldest machines drift like lone ghosts of our ambition. Voyager 1 and Voyager 2, our tireless cosmic emissaries, have been gliding through the void for decades, their ancient instruments still whispering faint signals home across gulfs so vast a single message takes nearly a full day to reach us. But those whispers have changed. Strange anomalies now ride the transmissions, patterns defying physics, objects moving with impossible precision, hinting that we may not be the only navigators of this deep frontier. Voyager 1 first caught the disturbance, a quirk that seemed like an isolated puzzle. Then Voyager 2, on an entirely different trajectory millions of miles away, detected the exact same phenomenon. That was the moment the unease turned to fear. This wasn't an error. This wasn't random noise. Something out there was organized, intentional, and both Voyagers had confirmed its presence. Like many cosmic mysteries, it began with nothing more than a flicker, a faint pulse hidden deep in Voyager 1's telemetry stream. Initially, NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory brushed it off as background interference, the usual static from cosmic rays and stray particles. But when mission specialist Dr. Eliza Karna examined the anomaly in detail, she saw something chillingly different. This wasn't a random blip. It wasn't just a flicker. It was a reflection, a ghostly echo of light that didn't simply drift but moved, and its movement was anything but random. It curved, it accelerated, it held steady, as though some invisible hand was steering it through the void. Soon, Voyager's plasma sensors backed up what human eyes had already begun to suspect. The object was deliberately altering its trajectory. Space debris doesn't do that. Systems analyst Carlo Romero described it perfectly. It was like spotting a drone in the middle of the ocean, out of place, unnatural, and unmistakably purposeful. The team began crossing off possibilities with surgical precision. Not a comet, there was no tail, no sublimation. Not an asteroid, the orbit was too precise. Not cosmic dust, the pattern was too coherent. One by one, the natural explanations evaporated, leaving behind only the chilling idea that something was guiding this traveler through the abyss. And then came the moment that stripped away any hope it was a fluke. Voyager 2, far from its twin's path, transmitted data that froze the room. Its instruments had captured nearly identical readings: magnetic fluctuations, plasma distortions, and a faint, structured pulse signature matching Voyager 1's anomaly. This cross-confirmation obliterated the last refuge of skepticism. It wasn't a software bug. It wasn't a hardware fault. Two spacecraft, millions of miles apart, had independently recorded the same impossible phenomenon. European Space Agency analyst M.K. Fontaine compared it to two lighthouses catching the same flash of light from an unknown ship. Behind closed doors, NASA quietly raised the status to a Level 3 alert, a classification reserved for events with no scientific explanation. This was no longer about a single object. It was an event, a coordinated movement unfolding across vast cosmic distances. The implication was terrifyingly clear. Whatever was unfolding out there wasn't random. It was vast, deliberate, and visible from multiple vantage points at once. As telemetry streamed in, the data began to crystallize into something far stranger than anyone expected. This wasn't a single object. There were 305 of them, each moving in flawless relation to the others. They held their spacing with impossible precision, gliding as if locked to an invisible cosmic grid. In the natural order of space, even the slightest velocity difference causes drift, but not here. These stayed in formation, unwavering, as though obeying a command. Scientists compared it to a flock of birds wheeling in unison, or a school of fish turning on instinct, except these weren't alive. They were metallic, silent, and slipping through the void with a grace that defied every known mechanic. No heat signatures, no signs of decay, no chaotic spins, only deliberate, synchronized motion. Stranger still, both the Voyagers began detecting rhythmic plasma pulses streaming from the swarm, repeating in exact intervals like a signal. Not just movement, but communication. Dr. Serena Patel of Caltech studied the cadence and compared it to a language, measured, deliberate, and far too ordered to be a product of chance. And then came the revelation that shattered even the wildest theories. Doppler shift analysis revealed many of these objects were moving at speeds that should be impossible, not just for human craft, but for any known propulsion system. There were no glowing thrusters, no exhaust trails, no engines at all. They didn't just move, they reshaped the void around them, gliding as if riding invisible currents in the fabric of space-time itself. Some streaked past speeds greater than the escape velocity of the Milky Way, an achievement beyond the reach of any propulsion system humanity has even dreamed of. Theoretical physicist Dr. Elena Reyes put it best: this was not flight but surfing, using space itself as the propulsive force. This wasn't ion drive, it wasn't nuclear propulsion, it wasn't anything we could build, and yet it was unfolding before our eyes, witnessed by two of our oldest robotic emissaries to the stars. By now, the fear wasn't just about what these objects were, but about what they could do, and what it meant for humanity to suddenly realize they were there. As NASA's deep space analysts scrambled to decode the swarm's behavior, something strange began happening back on Earth. Amateur radio operators, scattered hobbyists with backyard antennas and salvaged rigs, started reporting faint, rhythmic static unlike any known interference. These weren't random bursts or ordinary cosmic hiss. The pulses had a structure, a hidden rhythm, and they lined up almost perfectly with the very hours when the Voyagers were logging their most intense anomalies. At first, officials dismissed it as coincidence, but the reports kept multiplying, surfacing from garages, basements, and remote hilltops across the globe. The alignment grew too precise to dismiss. Some radio operators even captured faint harmonics buried deep in the noise, frequencies hinting that the signals were either bouncing off something high in Earth's atmosphere or bleeding straight into our electromagnetic spectrum. Intelligence agencies began to take notice, not because they understood it, but because they realized if backyard hobbyists could detect these patterns, then so could rival nations armed with far more sophisticated ears. With anomalies stacking higher by the week, NASA and ESA formed a joint task force, digging back through decades of archived mission data in search of a precedent. Maybe Pioneer 10, Pioneer 11, or even New Horizons had glimpsed something similar, some overlooked clue that could reframe the mystery. Teams poured through dusty telemetry logs, magnetometer traces, plasma data stretching back to the 1980s. But every search came back empty. No swarm, no signals, nothing that matched the precision, the rhythm, or the scale now unfolding before them. That silence in the archives carried its own chilling implication. Perhaps the swarm had always been there, cloaked or dormant, waiting for a trigger, and Voyager's uniquely archaic analog systems had finally set it off. If that was true, then these objects hadn't just appeared. They had been waiting, and the question no one wanted to put into words was, waiting for what? Then came a twist from Voyager itself. As the swarm passed beyond Voyager 1's position, its attitude and articulation control system, a decades-old guidance subsystem thought to be all but obsolete, suddenly began rerouting data through channels untouched since the Reagan era. At first, engineers suspected simple degradation, the expected quirks of aging hardware, but the rerouting was too clean, too precise, too intentional. Voyager began to behave like no probe we had ever launched. It reactivated dormant memory banks, bypassed long-abandoned protocols, and started transmitting through channels no one had programmed in decades. Even more unsettling, this change began immediately after one of the swarm's magnetic pulses washed over it. Had the signal somehow altered Voyager's systems, or was the spacecraft itself adapting, responding to an environment it had never encountered before? Whatever the cause, our once passive observer now seemed different. Still functional, still answering commands, but acting in ways that suggested it had been modified, whether by accident or design. And as analysts dug deeper into the plasma readings, a strange and electrifying idea began to form. The swarm wasn't merely traveling, it was communicating. Its pulses carried harmonic intervals eerily similar to those used in quantum entanglement experiments, the kind researchers on Earth used to transfer information instantly across impossible distances. It was as if the 305 objects were nodes in an immense, invisible lattice, relaying data through the vacuum itself, an interstellar internet built for motion and magnetism. And Voyager, old, slow, analog Voyager, was the perfect ear to catch their whispers. Its ancient hardware, free from the digital noise of modern spacecraft, made it uniquely suited to pick up signals others would overlook. Was it pure coincidence that both Voyagers occupied the right positions at the right time to intercept this cosmic network? Or had it been orchestrated from the start? But then, a darker thought began to circulate in hushed corridors. What if they already knew we were listening and had decided to answer? Out in the cold reaches beyond our solar system, where human presence is reduced to 2 aging probes whispering home, the evidence had become impossible to ignore. This was no chance encounter, no fleeting cosmic curiosity. Voyager 1 and Voyager 2, separated by millions of miles, had both intercepted something vast enough, organized enough, and deliberate enough to shatter every natural explanation we've trusted for decades. 305 objects moving in flawless formation, communicating through pulses more structured than any natural signal, propelled by a method that bends the rules of physics as we know them. And at the center of it all, Voyager itself, changing, adapting, as though becoming part of something else entirely. If these objects are probes, then the questions become heavier than science alone can bear. Who sent them? From where? And why skirt our solar system so deliberately? If they're natural, then we're staring into an even deeper abyss, forces and mechanisms etched into the universe long before we arrived. Physics rewritten in ways we've only just begun to glimpse. Yet perhaps the most unsettling truth is this: we may not be the audience for this display at all. We may have simply wandered into an ongoing conversation, one that's been transmitting since before humanity even learned to look up at the stars. And if they're aware of us now, if they've chosen to acknowledge our listening, then the first response may already be on its way. Because in the vast ancient darkness, the line between observer and observed is thinner than we ever imagined. If you're as captivated by this mystery as we are, like this video, subscribe to BuzzBleed, share it with your fellow stargazers, and leave a comment below. What do you think the Voyagers have really discovered out there?